guess you... Good afternoon. We're back in the Bexar County Junior Livestock Show barns. This is Saturday, January 2nd, and this will conclude the Bexar County Junior Livestock Show. And along with me today is Helotes FFA member Emmeline Kane, and we're going to talk to you about pigs. Lots and lots of pigs. Pigs have started here, and the judge has already started doing his placement. This is the breeding show. Emmeline, what's important about the breeding show?
The breeding show gets all the pigs back into the breeding environment. So the kids here are showing to hopefully get their pigs into a breeding program where we can get more show pigs. There is a difference between the breeding and market shows. Breeding, they're based off the more of the rib and how big and bold they are in structure, versus market, which they're wanting the meat.
Well, and I think it's important, what we need to make everybody understand is that today's breeding show is only going to be gilts. And gilts, what we mean by that is it is a young female pig that has not had a litter of piglets yet. So It has not successfully reproduced yet. But what these young agripreneurs are doing, notice how I said that, agripreneurs, these agribusiness men and women that are on the sand right now, they're starting out in the process of what their animal would be to raise piglets for them for many years.
Correct.
This is part of the breeding program, and from this group of pigs, we'll see the Market Swine, which will happen later in the day. But this is where it all gets started, right here. This is the important part, because this is the stock that will lead to the future.
Yes.
And so right now we're seeing the Berkshire Breed. Emmeline, what's a characteristic of the Berkshire Breed?
Berks normally have 6 points of white and the rest of their body is black. Sometimes they have a few little spots on their back, but pure Berks normally have, they have to have 4 white feet. They normally have like a white nose or face, and then sometimes the tips of their ears or the tips of their tails are
Berkshires. If we can start having our August Berkshires making your way to the holding pens area. If I can please have our August Berkshires making your way to the holding area, please.
And as they just announced, this is the July class, which means that these gilts were born in July of 2020.
Correct.
And so they're not quite yet a year old.
No.
But you're already starting to look at their muscle structure, you're starting to look at their skeletal structure, you're also looking at how well they maneuver around in the ring, because these animals don't have as short a terminal life as the Market Swine, meaning that they will go back into a breeder's program and will be there as the seed stock. So it's important that they're able to move around, that they're fluid, that their joints are moving correctly, because they're going to move around in the pens, they're going to move around in the pastures if you're raising pasture hogs.
They're going to need to be able to carry piglets, which is what their purpose is. So if they can move around, if they can jump up and down, or even run around, that's always a good sign for the judge.
And then, of course, what we see as far as muscle structure, the amount of muscle that is going on to the animal itself, that is a genetic trait that will be passed on to its offspring.
Yes.
And 50%, we have to remember that at least 50% of the offspring will be getting their characteristics from the mother's side.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that as breeders evaluate the animal, I want one that is capable of carrying muscle. Now, I'm not going to develop this one as much as I would a market pig. And what I mean by that is I don't want hams that are going to weigh 45 pounds.
Yes, you want them
right
softer now, so they look motherly and they can carry piglets.
Well, and not only that, but I know with other livestock, there are there's a body score and a body condition.
Mm-hmm.
And if I go on the high end of that body condition, that's going to affect the time it takes to reproduce. It's even going to affect whether they can reproduce or not.
Yes.
So if I come out and I overfeed this gilt, if I really strongly develop that gilt, in a way I'm kind of taking money off of the table, because if they can't have an offspring, then they're not going to make any money for me. Right.
Yes.
All they would be good for is the Easter dinner table.
Correct. And maybe breakfast morning.
Absolutely. So let's explain right now the process that the judge is going through. It seems like he is placing some of the pigs.
What it looks like from what I've seen is he's placing back to forward, so he's keeping the ones he likes out so he can evaluate them more. So if he already knows what place he wants one of them, he'll go and he'll automatically just place it. So he can get those out of the way and he can get a better look at his top.
Now, we're also starting to see a little bit of difference in size here as well. I mean, even though they were all supposed to be born in July, if I had a pig that was born on July 1st, it could be a little bit larger, could have a little bit more muscle to it than a pig that was born on July 31st.
Yes.
Because it'd be almost a full month of feeding and development that the other pig doesn't have.
And you'll look and notice that, yes, it may be the birth date that causes that, but also some pigs eat more than others. So you could have a July pig born on the 15th, 2 of them, and one's a lot bigger than the other because one has a bigger appetite.
And I mean, Emmeline, if we look out in the ring right now, we can already see, I know at least 2 animals that look almost the opposite ends of the spectrum. The young girl with the pigtail, her animal looks a little shorter, is not carrying as much muscle as the girl in the striped shirt with the long brown hair. We see some
Differences.
right, absolutely. The hams are more pronounced. That one seems like it's carrying a little bit more length of the skeleton, carrying even a little bit more weight on the animal.
Which, for breeding, length is really good because that means they can carry more piglets, and this is for breeding. So yes, the muscle is important, but their skeleton and structure is the most.
Well, and we also have to remember that with the longer skeleton, it also means that we're going to have more meat production as far as that market animal goes. And it looks like the judge has made his selections for the July class, and we're going to let him take over now and talk to us a little bit about it. So the boss doesn't get mad.
Well, good morning. Very excited to be here this morning, and just great to get out in the livestock show and get to be around stock people and stock kids, and get to see these kids show their projects that they've been working so hard on all year. Great way to start off in our Berkshires, I think. Top end is awfully close, I think. I think those top 5 are awfully good. I pulled a few of those back and left some other ones driving just to see how they handle, but the young ladies over here in the red shirt that's going to win this class, that one does so pretty handily in my mind, just in terms of comfort, in terms of volume, in terms of stoutness, in terms of looking like a lady but still having enough power to make some show bearers. I think that one's awfully good. Just the looseness that one comes in with that kind of mass, and to still layer muscle on her body in a maternal fashion, that's just an awfully good one, I think. Young ladies that lands here in second, man, I like a lot of things about this gilt. You look at her from the side, you talk about a pretty feminine one that's got plenty of body to her. I think when you get right down to it and you compare her to our class winner, there's just not as much to her as that gilt. That's a big burly stout one that wins, and this is a pretty correct sound one, and she can just fit inside that other one. Nice gilt though that lands there too. Young ladies in 3, one of the more juvenile looking ones in class, but one that I like a lot of things about, especially from her loin forward. You talk about a really neat running one that's got a good shape to her rib, that's got good muscle shape. She gets up and she goes well. I think she's a little off on her rear too in terms of just her coordination. Her reach and her flex is very, very good. She wants to pinch there just a little bit in her hand one. If we can fix that about her, she can certainly move up in class. Our next one that comes out in our top 4 here, young ladies, one that's got a lot of bone, that gilt's got a lot of depth, a lot of maternal in terms of her look, wants to get a little more rigid off of those rear two and a little flatter in terms of her rib when you compare her to those others. Our young man's that lands in 5th, a big stout one that's opened up and cracked open, big bladed, big hip, one that just gets a little off on those rear two, wanting to struggle a little more. Left that one driving just a bit longer than some of the others, and she starts breaking down on you just a little bit. but that one in terms of width, rib, and genuineness is very, very good. Our young maidens that comes out next, a big stature, long-bodied one that's got a lot of length and presence to that one from the side. Just need to crack that one open all the way throughout her entire skeleton. She needs to be more opened up and she needs to be bolder throughout. And then our three that round out our class are kind of built the same. There some hogs that get a little off in terms of their structure, need a little more rib, a little more power, a little more volume. Very, very good class. Put your hands together for all those exhibitors.
And if you notice, they are pinning the top
Give an
two.
applause to our exhibitors. Job well done. In the holding areas, we should have our August Berkshire. There's a total of 7 in this class. In the July Berkshire, in 9th place was Gabrielle Props, Southwest FFA. 8th place, Jewel Rodriguez, Southwest FFA. 7th place, Samuel Beisenbach, East Central FFA. 6th place, Thomas Romer, Southwest FFA. 5th place, Douglas Bryant, East Central FFA. 4th place, Douglas Bryant, East Central FFA. 3rd place, Skylar Payton, Southside FFA. 2nd place, Desiree Ramirez, Southwest FFA. And in 1st place, Harley Dixon, East Central FFA. Congratulations.
So as I was saying earlier, they are pinning the top 2 in the back of the room because they're going to be holding them there for the breed drive. So at the conclusion of this class, the top 2 in August will actually compete against the top 2 in July for the overall championship on the Berkshire Drive.
For overall and reserve champion.
Right.
Yes.
And there are 7 inside the August class for Berkshire. These are pigs that were born in August of 2020. These are gilts. Now, Emmeline, for San Antonio, you cannot show a gilt in the Market Swine division, can you?
I don't think so. I think it's a barrow show.
Right.
So you have to show, if you have a gilt, you have to show it in either the purebred, if you have papers, or crossbred gilt show.
Right, but it's not considered a market
No,
animal.
it's not considered market.
And if we notice, it seems like the very first, his first place in the July class, more of a uniform animal. And what I mean by that is you could see that the muscle tone was being developed, but you saw that there was a nice
Width of body.
right and length of
Skeleton,
yep.
yes. With any pig, you want overall great and not just great pieces. So if you have a great pig with great muscle but no width of body, one with good muscle and good width of body will place over it.
But I guess what I was trying to point out is here in the breeding show, it's a little different in that I don't want to fully push and develop that muscle tone because I'm not marketing it for a carcass
Yes.
quality. I'm marketing it for
It's
a breeding quality.
Yes.
And so we're going to see that distinction later on in the evening when we talk about the market animals, because there it becomes very important about getting that muscle structure built, muscle structure developed, and then we'll also see how that ties into the skeletal length and the skeletal structure. And I think too, one of the things that he talks about right now is bone structure, and that's a really important evaluation for a breeding animal, because without that bone structure, if they don't have proportionate bone to muscle, proportionate bone to skeletal development,
They won't be able to carry
Absolutely.
not just their own body weight, but also the body weight of piglets.
Absolutely. Now, in San Antonio for the breeding show, do we see older pigs enter the ring?
For San Antonio, there isn't like a specific cutoff date that you have to have. I think the youngest, the youngest it can be is September 10th, I believe. But there's no like oldest. As long as they weigh, I think it's 290, they can show.
Well, and at 290, that kind of imposes, for instance, the breeding goat show here at Bexar County. We actually saw a 36-month-old, 3-year-old, and older animal inside the ring, but we're not going to see that with the pigs.
No, they still have to be around 6 or 7 months old to meet that requirement, unless they don't eat, and then they'll probably be a little older, but not much. And
one of the reasons being is because we've already seen some of the pigs being a little stubborn in the ring as it is.
Yes.
And a older, mature pig or hog could be pushing between 600 and 800 pounds.
Yes.
That's a lot of muscle mass to try to direct and control inside the ring.
And normally it doesn't work.
So we noticed the judge has pinned 3 already.
He'll probably keep out his top 2 or 3 so he can look over them before going over his placings on what he likes. Just making sure he's got his final decisions right.
And he has made his selections, and he's coming over to the table and let's listen to him tell us.
Well, another good class rolls in here next, and the young man that wins this class does so pretty handily. I like a lot of things about that gilt. Just from the side, as soon as she comes in, that one demands your attention in her extension of her blades, her comfort as she goes, the rib shape and the mass that she has, and one that just looks the picture from the side. Very nice female that just puts an awful lot of good things together. Young ladies that comes in second, comes in with a shot more bone, shot more body, and just mass overall, but just doesn't have quite that look that our class winner does. That class winner's a little trimmer, a little meaner looking up to her front end, but you talk about one that has mass, one that has bone, one that has a lot of really, really good breeding pieces. They can take you down the line and make some very, very competitive hogs down the road, I think. Young man that comes in third, man, if you're just going to mass them up, that's the one you tie into. A huge-legged, really wide, really bold, really dimensional one. There's a ton of volume. With that comes with a tick-more crest, a little waist steamer up there in front of her front end, and maybe just doesn't go quite as fluid as some as those other 2 in front of her, but a very, very good hog that lands there in third. Young lady in 4, a little one that's built a little more for speed. She's long, she's lean, she's extended. She's one that gets a shot more flank to make her proportionalize a little better and make her a little longer and level out her hip. Like you see her hand go her hind leg just a tick better. Put a nice one there for the basics that she has. Young man that comes next, a wide one that's bold and muscular. It's just a bit shorter, a bit lower to the ground. A little round up over there. Congratulations, sir. And we send out those next 2 young ladies that comes next. One that's long, sound, and level, needs more width, rib, and muscle all the way throughout. And the young ladies that runs out our class, one that has some body, has some muscle. That one's hip and hind leg just gets a bit too off for me. Very good class. Please put your hands together for all those exhibitors.
Now that the class winners have been determined, we're going to see him bring out the top 2 from the July group, and they will actually compete for the Berkshire Breed champion.
Yes.
Southwest FFA, 6th place, Leander West, Southside.
And since this was such a small breed, it may go faster because he's still got them in his head.
Southwest FFA, 4th place, Caitlin Castro, the Lotus 4-H. 3rd place, Jason Aguero, Southwest FFA. Second place, Kylie Sparks, East Central FFA. And in first place, Jacob Adams, East Central FFA. Congratulations.
One young lady does not want to leave the show ring yet.
Her pig's giving her a bit of trouble.
Is liking to be
In the nice, cool sand.
well, that or center of attention. They've decided to open both gates to the back of the arena.
See which one she'll
She
go
now
out.
has a choice. And she has found the one she likes. Emmeline, does there seem to be one breed that's more popular than the
Go
other?
ahead and start having the
I think
Chester.
the most popular breed
July,
is Durocks
white,
because
and you
everybody
can
likes
start
the color of
bringing your
Durocks.
weights to the holding area.
I personally do
July,
not,
Chester, white, so you start bringing your weights
but
to
because
the
of the
holding
color
area.
and the pattern, it's Durocks and then spots.
Well, but I think there is something to be said, especially on the specialty butcher shops. The Durock is much like the Angus breed in cattle. They have created a specialized market for Durock. I know if you walked into Bollner's Meat Market, they had a section that was strictly reserved for Durock. And I'm sure that there are chefs out there that could explain why a Durock is more preferable.
We'll give a big round of applause for our two class winners out here in our Berkshire Drive. Very, very impressed with these two, and I'll be the first to tell you, I don't think they look much alike at all. I think they're both good types of hogs, but they're a little different in their type and kind, and I think that's all right because good ones definitely come in different shapes and sizes. Out of that older class, the young ladies wanted, we talk about this kind of looks like a sow, one that's big-footed, one that's got a huge rib in her, lots of volume, one that everything balances on, one we talked about in class, just the epitome of comfort and cushion and flexibility out here, just uses everything, all of her joints and her angles right, and one that still comes with a good bit of mass to her. Young man that wins that second class, one that's built for speed, that one's neat, slick looking up front, dead level down her top. She's more extended off the ground. She's taller shouldered. One that if we get right down to her, could use a shot more bone maybe. It could be lengthened out of her hip just a shot. Like I said, two very, very good ones they're just a little different in their type and kind in terms of the ones that I like in terms of just making them the way that I like them. You catch them walking at you. There's one that's bigger chested, one that's bigger form, bigger at the ground, and just square all the way throughout. Young ladies, Gilt's going to be your champion.
Procedure-wise, Emmeline, it looks to me that the judge is basing his champion off of the top two, or the top one in
From
each
both
class,
classes.
right?
Yes.
And then he's bringing out the
The one.
second place winner from the one that
That
won
won.
to determine his reserve. Now in the breeding show, because there's only about a month that separates the two classes here, the pigs for the most part are going to be pretty uniform.
Yes.
Now later in the evening when we get to the market class, we will see some pronounced differences because they're going to be divided by weight.
Yes.
You'll have lightweight and middleweight and heavyweight.
So you'll see a class of very, very small pigs.
Mhm.
Well, that look to be
Well, as
small
we drop
compared
that
to the
second
big,
place one,
heavy
and definitely one
places.
that gets into contention, I think, and one that we talked about in class. She's flexible, she's comfortable, she reaches good. She's one that wants to roll her hip just a shot. I'd like to clean her up there in the lower part of her body cavity and in her jowl. But one that just screams maternal, and one that just looks like a female. I think it gets awfully close out here between these two. I think you can definitely justify going either way. I think there's one that pushed our champion exceptionally hard, one that's out there in terms of its species, and one that's just awfully good in my mind as well. Young man's out of that second class going to be reserved.
Our breed champion is Harley Dixon, East Central FFA, and breed reserve champion is Jaden Adams, East Central FFA. Congratulations to all exhibitors. Again, at this time in the holding area, we should have the July Chester Whites. There's a total of 3 in this class.
This is Mark Denzel. He's a Burbank, actually the one I told you about. Y'all get together, work at a time and a thing, and I greatly appreciate it, and I know they will.
And attention in the holding area, in the barn area, if I can have the July Durocks, so you can start training your animals for the holding area. July Durocks, so you can start training your animals to the holding area.
Once again, to our Chester Whites, a young man that's going to win this class. Just one that does so often hand in my mind. You get start down from the ground. That's a white made one that's genuine. She's one that's bold in the rib, square all the way throughout. She's attractive, she's level. And she's the one that handles her hip and hind leg the best of these 3 out here. She's got the most reach, she's got the most comfort. She's big boned, but her joints are still smooth, they're still clean, still flat like they should be. Nice thing to win that class. Young ladies, they come in the second. Comes a little more low, comes a little more extension up front. That one's a little leaner, a little aggressive, a little cleaner looking. One that I want to drop in her flank just a shot. I want to see her use her hind leg just a tick different. I want to see her just set that in a little easier. Also jab her in the ground off her rear too. I want to take her up in her hop points just a little bit as well. Then I see other things in the two. Young ladies, let's come right out our top three here. One is big, one is extended, one is got a lot of throat. And the other needs to be opened up, needs to be blown apart in the rib and shaped up all the way to the rest. Very good class. Put your hands together for the exhibitors. And go.
And our July, Chester White in third place. Second place, Ali Schultz, East Central FFA. And first place, Ian Diaz, LSP. Lisa Ian Walker State, third champion, and champion of the Berkshire Breed. Congratulations. And at this time, in the holding area, we can have our July Durocks. There's a total of 8 in this class. In the holding area, we can have a total of 8 Durocks July. We have to come down, please start making room for our revenue.
Seth, don't put your hand in your pocket. Hand in the pocket, don't do it up there.
is. And so the July Durocks have just entered the sand. And it looks like, Emmeline, I should have turned my page over here.
We have 3 classes, I believe, of Durocks.
There are 8 inside this class.
Yes.
And so this is the July Durock. Now we're actually going to get to see here July, August, and September.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we're going to get to see here the play that we're talking about on size difference, because there is going to be a noticeable difference, I would think, between the July and September.
Yes.
Bred
September
animal.
will be a lot smaller than the July.
But Emmeline, I this is my weakness, because I've only raised 1 show pig. I've never raised them from a breeding standpoint. I've bred goats, I've bred sheep, I've bred cattle, and I have bred horses. I don't quite understand how I can evaluate a breeding animal that is only 6 months old.
It's really hard to judge or evaluate breeding animals when they're smaller, but around 6 months of age you can start to see what they're going to become as sows if they get put into a program, based off their skeleton and how wide they are, like at the front chest or at the ground, and also you look at their body cavity and see how big and nice and wide they are, and that will tell you how well they'll do for breeding in the future.
Now, I think we're also treated to a special situation with these show animals. The ones that the disposition might be a little cranky obviously would not be here today, correct?
Yes, correct.
But temperament or disposition is one of the criterion that breeders will use or exhibitors will use in selecting their animal, right?
Correct. A lot of breeders like pigs that are nice and calm in the ring, because it shows that they'll be nice, calm, and they won't be jumping around on their babies if they have any. Because usually the pigs with the worst temper move around the most and are jumping around, and that's not good when they have piglets.
Well, and because of that, and something that we're going to talk to about with the Burbank individuals, but there are farrowing crates that are used there to keep mom from either rolling over on or...
Somewhat, yes. Because the babies can still crawl into mom's space, so if she stands up and then lays down, they get crushed. But there is a space for them to go where she can't lay down. But after a while of being in the crate, all of them get antsy and want to get up, and so the more temperamental some of the pigs are, the faster they're going to want to get up and get out of the crate.
And typically, how long does one stay in the farrowing crate?
If I am thinking correctly, I think it's around 31 days, I believe so. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, depending on the breeder and how long they like to keep the piglets in there, but it's in that range somewhere.
And something that's unique to mention, you actually have your own breeding animal, do you not?
I do. She's a York. She's not here today, but she is the third pig I've gotten. Sorry, the second pig I've gotten from my first breeding gilt. My first breeding gilt, I gave her to a breeder, and he bred her, and I got a piglet out of her. And then I took that piglet to all the shows. I gave her to a breeder, and I got the one I have now. So I've been trading off, per se, pigs from the start.
But I guess what I want to stress is that you truly have developed your own market animal. So at the end of this show season, like last, you get to see the results of your work.
Exactly. I mean, I started with a pig that I could afford, and I kept growing on what the judge said she needed, and now I've gotten to, I think, the best pig I could have gotten from the breeding.
But now let's talk about this, because the judge is going to make some comments. He's already made comments. If I could change her up a little bit, or if I could But in a lot of ways, what you see out there,
Is what you get.
it's what you're going to get.
Yes. Some of the things he's commenting on, you can't really change. There is some things like he'll say, this gild is lean, and that usually means try and put a little bit more muscle on her, a little bit more fat on her. But a lot of the things is more structural he talks about in here, and there's not much anybody can do about that.
Except, and this is where it becomes important from a breeder's standpoint, if I'm taking notes, and the judge might say that my back end is a little bit light, then that means that I need to find a boar hog
That has the bone size or structure that you need to look for. Yes, correct.
Right. So I won't be able to fix mom, but the offspring coming out of it
fixed by the boar. Yes.
So it's important to take some of these notes to heart, because that's how you improve your herd.
Correct.
Well, as we change gears and get into our Durocks here, a great class that comes out, and a pair of them off top that I think are very, very good. Young ladies that's going to win this class does so on either end of her skeleton. You catch that one driving at you or driving away from you. That's the bigger chested, stouter headed one that's just more opened up and truer in terms of her natural width and dimension. And with that, she's one that can still handle it. You watch that gilt get out and go. She's comfortable, she's fluid, she's one that's big rib and soft middle, looks like a maternal one that can still lay down and have you some good barrows. Young ladies, that comes in second, just the style of the class. A big, tall shouldered, long, extended one. It's very, very good in terms of her rib and her softness and her maternal look from the side. Just want to clean that one up just a tick in terms of her throat and in the lower part of her body cavity. But man, that one's sound. That one looks like a female. That one can flat get out and go, and that young lady does an excellent job of getting that one stuck. Young ladies that lands in third, nice job. In terms of it's built similar to our class winner in terms of her width, in terms of her power, in terms of her dimension. She's definitely stouter and heavier muscle than the gilt that comes in second, but she just doesn't come in terms of a smoothness of a package as that one in second. She doesn't handle her hind leg as well, and I want to soften her flank just a notch. Young man's that comes next. One is a tall shouldered, long, extended one that gets out and goes very well. Just need to open that one up in terms of her rib, soften her and her flank as well. We get on down the line, young man's that comes next, a really stout one that just needs to handle that one's hip and hind leg just a bit better. If that gilt can move better and it's a little bigger and her kind a little more extended, she can definitely move up in class. Young ladies that comes next is a really tall shouldered young lady in a red shirt, really tall shouldered, really extended, attractive, sound one. That one needs more middle, needs more guts, needs to be softened up. Young man's in the black shirt, a big style one, needs to go better off both ends. And the young ladies that rounds out our class, a neat looking one that's shapely, expressive, lean, and level, just needs to be softer middle and higher volume to run with these others. Very good class. Put your hands together for all those exhibitors.
So this concludes the July Durock class. What will be coming in next will be the August Durock class.
Yes.
Now there's 4 animals in the August class. And then when those 4 animals finish, we will have the September class, and there's only 1 in it.
Yes.
7th place, Austin Olivas, Madison, FFA. 6th place, Mary West, Southwest, FFA. 5th place, Seth Kruger, Southwest, FFA. 4th place, Nico Garcia, Southside, FFA. 3rd place, David Baldwin, Southwest, FFA. 2nd place, Dan Alonso, East Central, FFA. And in 1st place, Tyler Sparks, East Central, FFA. Congratulations.
So we'll have the last 2 July ladies leaving here shortly. And waiting in the wings is the August class. I have to say that when I was showing livestock, pigs were the most difficult to move because
There's not a string to pull. You can't pull them with a halter, nothing. You gotta...
And you can't, I mean, yes, you will teach them to walk because you will be outside working with them. You'll teach them to keep their heads up. But when they decide they're going somewhere...
They're going. Especially when they go to a new place like this, the first ring, or this is their first time in this ring. So they want to see what's happening. They don't know where to get out or how to get back to their pen where it was safe and they could just lay down. So they'll try their best to be a bit of a pain and get out as fast as possible.
Well, and I think that's something that we need to explain to everyone. When the animal is acting a little difficult, it's not because the exhibitor hasn't spent time to work with them or spent time to help
develop their walking. No, it's normally because the pig just does not want to be there. It's in an environment where it hasn't been, and it's with a lot of pigs it hasn't been with, and
and not
scared,
only
doesn't want to be there.
lots of pigs that it hasn't been with, but
a lot of
it's
people.
probably not seen this number of people in its lifetime. And
Correct.
The wind has picked up, the flags are blowing a little bit, and so anytime you have something moving, those animals pick up on it. And of
Yes.
course, their protective instincts take over, their flight instincts take over, and they want to move away from that movement that they see because unfortunately they're not at the top of the food chain, so they are prey animals, and so they have that flight mechanism that comes in.
Yes.
So we have now started the August class. They have entered onto the sand.
And you can already see the difference in the sizes. These are a bit smaller than the other ones.
Now we're certainly starting to see longer structure, longer skeletons as far as the Durock. I think we talked about that they were going to be a little bit longer
Different
in body.
breeds are longer, and I believe Durocks and Yorks are the longest body natural.
But now, from a pig raiser standpoint, with that longer body, I can put more muscle mass on there. I can create more meat, which ultimately translates into more money for me at the end of the day.
It does, but the trend has been going back to being more compact and smaller because then you can layer a lot more cover and meat on this, not just like the butt and shoulders, but also the middle, and they look fuller. So that's been more of the trend.
These run a little bit more too, don't they?
Yes, they do.
And the judge has made his selection.
Well, a very good class of 4 that rolls in here next. So with that being said, the young ladies that wins this class does so very handily in my mind. Talk about a tall shouldered one that runs uphill, dead level, her feet and her legs work right, she's comfortable, she's genuine, she's square. That one's real nice. Very good female, little green, but very nice one here today. Young ladies that comes in second, opened up, bold, stout, no doubt about it. One that gets a little choppy off of those rear two. If we can smooth her up, see her go just a little bit smoother off her rear two, she can rival that one that wins this class. Also need to clean her up just a tick in her crest as well. Young ladies that lands in third, that's a nice hog that has some genuine width, has some rib. I just wish that would get her head up and go. I think it would help her hip and her hind legs. She wants to roll out of her hip just a little bit, get up underneath herself on the move. And the young lady that rounds out our class, a neat looking one that's level, that's lean, that's extended. She just needs more time, needs more width, and needs more belly to run with some of these others. Very good class. Put your hands together for all those exhibitors.
In the August Durocks, in 4th place is Skylar Payton, Southside FFA. 3rd place, Madison Wilburn, St. Edward 4-H. 2nd place, Jasmine Dubé, Southwest FFA. And in 1st place, Joseph Johnson, East Central FFA. In the September Durocks, we have 1.
If they have followed what they have done in the previous shows, we will take about a 15-minute break before we go into Showmanship, and then they have taken about a 30-minute break between breeding and market. So the September hog has arrived, so the September Durock is here. want to take a moment. One of the things that I commend 4-H and FFA, it's a very inclusive program. It's one that doesn't believe that there's any limitation for any student. And we see this inside the ring.
Yes. With livestock, if you want to show livestock, you can show livestock.
In September, our Durock is Mason Cooper with Essential FFA.
Like I said, a single inch Durock comes in first place. A great team, great gentlemen, great young men out here doing an excellent job. One that'll definitely be interesting to see when that one comes out for the drive. Good one that's got lots of extension, lots of shape. That one sounds got bone. Real good hog. Will be interesting to see when we get the rest of them out. Congratulations to that young man.
And now they will bring out the two previous winners, first place, the July and August first place Durock.
So he can compare and pick his champion.
And he will pick the champion out of this.
In the holding area, we can start having the Hampshire breeds, and you can start coming up to the holding area. That's all Hampshire. We have 1 in July, 2 in August.
As we get out here in our drive, I'm very, very impressed with these three that come out here. All of them definitely represent quality, definitely good kinds of hogs. The young ladies that win that oldest class that came out first, I talk about one that's just dense, all the way from the ground up, nose to tail. That one's cracked open, that one's bold. She still handles her joints and her angles right. Still looks like a lady. One that's still cracked open, real nice hog there. Young ladies that wins that second class and did so really handily in my mind, and you can see why when she's driving right there across center ring. A heads up one that's tall shouldered, that's level, that just demands your attention from the side. These other two men, here's a sharp on plate, so that's getting awfully critical of a really nice single that wins that second class. Now, our young man single entry, definitely one that comes into contention, built a lot like these other two and kind of blends them a little bit. One that's got bone, one that's got some extension, one that's got some muscle. Maybe could use just a shot more right there in the center part of her rib when you compare it to these other two. But a very, very good class, very good set. Three really good gilts out here. I'll go out and look at them one more time and I'll select the champion.
So Emmeline, if I'm understanding this, it looks like he took the August as the champion, grand champion.
I believe so.
because the August
We dropped that second place in here, and one that definitely comes in contention, I think, when you get to adding everything up. One we talked about in class, just a Sowie kind of female, one that's sound, one that's comfortable, one that's smooth, still got a lot of size and a lot of growth to that one with a lot of volume and a lot of dimension. I think when she drives right at you, you want to stand her up in terms of her skull and maybe see her go just a click wider in terms of her chest. That's getting awfully critical. A really nice female there. I think there's another one. There's one out here that definitely pushes our champion exceptionally hard. One that's out there in her pieces, and one that's very difficult to make, in my opinion. Young lady out of our second class is going to be reserved.
The dog, our breed champion is Kylie Sparks with East Central FFA. And the reserve breed champion is Josie Johnson, East Central FFA.
So the July class took the grand champion, and then the August class took the reserve. And so coming up next is going to be the
We have all
July
Hampshire breeds in the holding area. For the month of July, we'll be showing 1.
July Hampshire.
And in August, we'll be showing 2.
Now this is a little different trend because when I was raising pigs, it seemed like the Hampshire breed was the most popular.
Now, Hamps are popular, but the Hamp look is popular. Yes, people like the Hamp look, but they don't necessarily. But they don't necessarily like the pure Hamps. They just go for one that looks like a Hamp.
So would we see that in a crossbred? Now would that be just a regular cross, or is there a classification for it?
There is a class in the market that is Hamps, and some of them are crosses, aren't pure Hamps, but there's also going to be some Hamp-looking ones in the cross class because they don't have a full belt or they have too much white, but they still appear to look somewhat like a Hamp.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Dalton Taylor is going to win the July Hamp class.
Being that there's one pig, there's a good probability. Even though there's only one, the judge does still judge.
And the exhibitor still shows.
Correct.
Well, as we get into our Hampshires, we drop in a single entry here, and Gilda definitely can stand some competition. One you talk about, she's good in terms of her rib, the spread that she has up high and down low. One of them that has some volume, has some look. She's clean to have her blades. Nice female. Be interested to see what she gets out with the rest of them in the drop. Congratulations to you, young man.
Our July Hampshire.
And coming up next will be the August Hampshire class, and there are 2 individuals in it.
Yes.
We're going to begin showing our August Hampshires. There are 2 in this class. If I can also start having the land race, July, if you can start making your way to the holding area, please. Land race, July, if you can start making your way to the holding area.
Emmeline, on the Hampshire breed, are they a little shorter than the Durock?
I think Durocks and Hamps are around the same, like height-wise, but I think they're are a little bit more compact, which makes them seem shorter than the Durocks.
And we definitely see a difference between the two animals in the ring now. One is a little bit taller, the other one is a little bit shorter.
Yes, both of them are peers, but they have lots of differences.
Nice pair of hands that come out next. The young lady that's going to win this class does so because that's just a bigger stature, longer, taller shouldered one that's just got a bit more growth to her, I think. You get down into that one, she's bolting her ribs, she's big up high. I do want to change her on the rear too. Wish she'd just go a little bit better off of that right rear leg. Just see her reach it just a tick more, maybe set down with a shot more bone at the surface. But a very, very nice female. It's very fresh, very well presented. Young man's that comes in second, that one does reach a little better off of her rear too, and she gets that and flexes pretty good out of her front end. Just a bit more push forward in terms of her growth curve. Want to see that one a little bit bigger, want to see her a little cleaner ahead of her blades, and trimmed up all the way throughout. Very good class. Put your hands together for those two exhibitors.
If we can start having the land race, July breed, if you can start bringing your July land race to the holding area. In the August Hampshire, second place was Maverick Villa.
And now we have the
Southside
breed drive
FFA,
for the
And in
Hampshires.
first place, Kyle Sparks, St. Hedwig 4-H. Congratulations.
I believe that since there's only 2 classes and only one extra in the holding pen, no matter who wins, the other young man gets to go out and show again.
So, Emmeline, from a livestock judging perspective, what do you see as the 2 characteristics that are opposite of these 2?
I can't really see much because of where I'm sitting, but I think the young ladies is a lot bigger and bolder and more mature than the young man's, but that's just from what I can tell here.
To me, though, it looks like the young lady's pig has a little bit more height to it.
Yes.
The skeleton is opened up more lengthwise, whereas the young man's is more compact. Already started the kind of pig look, so to
Yes.
speak.
As we got here, Parliamentary drive, 2 quality females to sort through, no doubt. Young man's that comes out of that first class, you drop her in here, and one that still is good in terms of her ribs. She's good in the shape that she has up high. Like the flexibility of that gill, the way she reaches off of her rear tube. I'm going to change that one. I want to see her just maybe level out of her hip just a nickel, and I want to refine her and clean her up in terms of her teeth. She gets a little short and coarse there on a few of them. We can change that about her. She just gets that much better. Nice female, though, that comes out of that single entry class. And our young ladies, when we drop her in here in the drive, a big scale extended one that's tall shouldered, long and big, up high. One that, like we talked about, I want to see her reach just a nickel better off of those rear tubes. Specifically that back right, to see her go just a shot better. But one that you gotta love the width, you gotta love the shape, the freshness and the look of that one. Very, very close pair here. I'm gonna go with the young ladies for your champion. She'll be your champion today.
So we picked the grand champion. Reserve champion is going to be up next.
Yes.
once we drop that second place one in. Like we talked about in class, like that one's width, like that one's spread. That one reaches a little better off of her rear too than our class winner did. One that we talked about, a little quicker pattern, a little shorter and quicker up through that one's front end. We can change that one about her, stretch her out a little bit. We can definitely improve that one just a little bit. Gets close out here, I think, between the two. I think the one that best follows our champion will be able to win single entry out of our first class. Congratulations.
Hampshire Breed champion is Kylie Sparks with St. Edward 4-H.
So up next will be the land race.
Taylor, Lotus 4-H. Congratulations. In the holding area, we should now have our land race July. There's 3 in this class.
And the land race is only a July class. There are 3 here. So what are some of the characteristics of the land race?
Land races are normally long-bodied, like really full, and I'm pretty sure they are heavy boned. I'm not real well rehearsed in land races because I don't like land races. But from what I've seen, they're always really long and really big.
So if I wasn't, as a breeder, if I wasn't interested in having a purebred, but crossbreds work for my program, if I had a sow that might be a little bit shorter in body, I could cross in the blood of the land race to lengthen them?
If that's what you're wanting to do, yes you can.
So we've seen the Chesters, they're white. We've seen the Yorks, they will be white. Polands will typically be white, some of them?
No, they're black. They look like more like the Berks.
Okay. So how can I tell between landrace, Chester, and York?
Between the way you can tell Yorks apart from the Chester and landrace is Yorks have up ears. Between Chester and landrace, it's always so hard for me to tell. Most of the time I can't. I think you can tell based off the papers, and that's about it. They're pretty close in breed. Chesters are usually shorter, while land races are taller.
And the Bexar County Junior Livestock Show is a awesome program that helps out so many young people across Bexar County, and it would not be possible without the generous sponsors that make this show happen. One of those, of course, is Affordable Trailers. We'veGotTrailers.com is where you can find them on the web. And if you have the opportunity, go by and say hi to Jason Oates and say thank you for supporting the Bexar County Junior Livestock Show. They, of course, are your place to go to for sales, parts, rentals, and service. They also have truck accessories. You can contact them by calling 210-648-2700 or check them out on the web at WeGotTrailers.com.
We only have one class of land race fields, so these first and second will be your champions in reserve, but a very competitive set of 3 that comes out here. Our young ladies that wins does so just because that one's just got the least holes there. They talk about one that's tall shouldered, one that's level, one that's extended, and she uses her hip and her hind leg and all of her joints and angles the best in this class, and that's why she wins. She's still one that's genuine, one that's wide, one that's bold, and one that's dimensional. The ladies that lands in 2 just has more muscle pound for pound, no doubt about it. That one is the opened up one that's really big back and really stout. That comes with her having just a tick more crest. And being a tick rounder out of her hip, doesn't use her hind leg quite as comfortably as the gilt that wins the breed. That's why she lands where she does. Now the other lady that rounds out in 3rd, one that's opened up, one that's stout, just got to see that one go better. She's not comfortable. I'll put her into her skeleton, want to lay her back in her ankles and see her go just a click better. Very good breed. Put your hands together for all those exhibitors.
So that concludes the land race, and next up will be the Poland China. And we have 2 classes of Poland China. We have the July and August. So the first up will be July of Poland,
Our
China.
reserve champion, and Macy Bathfinder Essential FFA in first place, and also our breed champion. Congratulations. In the holding area, at this time, we should have all Poland Chinas. We have 2 in July and 1 in August.
I don't think so.
Garcia, Poland, China, July. Poland, China, Alfred Garcia, Southwest FFA. Start making your way to the holding area. While we're waiting, at this time, this is just the first call on showmanship. There may be more added, but at this time, I just want to let you know how it stands. Right now, the breeding showmanship for junior is number 114, 129, 113, and 147. And our senior showmanship at this time is 365, 346, 352, 351, 353, 340, and 354.
We'd also like to thank Norma's Place Mexican Restaurant, another generous sponsor of the Bexar County Junior Livestock Show 2020. They have private rooms and catering available. They are located at 11420 Highway 87 East in Adkins, Texas. And that's Norma's Place Mexican Restaurant, and you can call 210-649-4007 to make reservations, or to call and ask about Norma's Place Mexican Restaurant. So later in the evening, when we start the market show, you're going to hear me talk about the premium sale and exhibitors that make it into
Alfred Garcia, Southwest FFA, your July, Poland, China.
So 80% of the exhibitors in each class will make or earn a spot in the premium sale. Reason we call it a premium sale is because you're either buying the ribbon or buying the picture. You're not buying the animal itself. The animals will be used to show later in San Antonio or the Gerlach or Austin, other shows down the road, but this is your way to help those individuals and the exhibitors break even, make a little money to make sure that they can go to the next level or set aside money for next year's show project. And so last year, the top 25 buyers in the 57th annual Junior Livestock Show, Bexar County Junior Livestock Show, include on the platinum level, PWC, on the gold level, Arno's Welding, HEB, O'Connor FFA Booster Club, Jack Oglen Memorial Foundation, Big State Electric Company, AMP Boosters, Madison FFA Booster Club, Oink Incorporated, The New Generation, Friesenhahn Trucking LLC, RTMC Construction Company Limited, John Wayne Heating and AC Limited, Swingens S Farm, PMI Pipe, Show Kid Events SKE, MCO, Republic Services, Joe Reese General Contractors Limited, Juby Mills Wegland Feeds. And on the bronze level, we have the San Antonio Firefighters Association, San Antonio Police Officers Association, River City Oral and Maximillo Facial Surgery, Dixie Plywood, Rush Enterprises Limited, Keller Memorial Limited, Green Cattle Company. Oh, never mind. We would also like to thank the Friesenhahn brothers for donating the sand for the arena today, and actually for all week. And it seems like our Poland Chinas have now entered the ring. This is the July class of the Poland Chinas. There are 2 entries in this class. Our shy pig is still a little shy. And both pigs seem to be getting acquainted with one another in the ring. They're trading stories from the back of the barn. Emily, this Poland China almost reminds me of a Brangus. And what I mean by that is there's a little hump at the neck. Is that normal, or?
It's more common with some of the breeds. Polands are some of those, along with Durocks. They have what we call a crest, and it's just a breed characteristic.
A very good pair of Polands that dropped in here for our first class. And young man that wins does so on the upper side of that one's skeleton. That one's clean and extended ahead of her blades. She's one that opens up with shape and dimension in the center part of her rib and up high, and she handles it well. She gets out and she goes, travels, very sound. One that could use a shot more bone in the ground and could be opened up maybe in the lower part of her skeleton. That's where the gilt that comes in second counters her. That's the bigger footed one that reads with more mass and bone. One that's just a bit softer and deeper, but one that's just a little lower from it, a little rounder out of her hips. She gets a bit flatter in terms of the center part of her body, and a little plainer in terms of her width all the way throughout. Very good pair, really good pair. Congratulations to those 2 exhibitors.
And that concludes the July class of the Poland China. We will have the August class coming up. There is 1 individual in the August class. While we're waiting for them to enter the ring, we'd like to thank Urban Concrete Contractors Limited for their generous donations to the Bear County Junior Livestock Show 2020. Without these generous sponsors, this event could not take place. Additional sponsors include Richmond Construction, Commercial Landscape. Thank you, Chris Richmond, for your generous support for the 2020 Livestock Show. You can reach Richmond Construction by calling 210-838-2344.
Our July Poland China in first place is Alfred Garcia, Southwest FFA. Second place is Delaney Morrison, James Madison, FFA. Congratulations. In our August, we have 1 entry. It's Lawson Taylor with Essential FFA.
really nice single entry that comes here next, and one that you get down and study that one from the ground up. She's genuine, she's bold, she's true, but she's one that handles it well. We see those ones that we can crack open and make them stout, but they got to be able to handle it, and this one they sure does that. And she's attractive up through her front end. And we're going to change anything about her. She want to pinch just a tick there in her ham horn. That's getting awfully critical of a really, really nice female that wins that class. Congratulations to you, man.
So now we will go to the breed drive for Poland China. They're bringing out the first place Poland China from July. After the breed drive here, we will be at the spotted Poland China. And
once we get out here in our Poland drive, I'm very, very pleased with these two females that we have out here. Young man wins that first class, like we talked about. He won that class because that was the taller fronted, taller shouldered one that's a little cleaner ahead of her blades. One that was bigger up high in terms of her width and her muscle, and one that still handled everything very well. Like we talked about, want to stopping her up just a shot at the ground and maybe open her up in the lower part of her body cavity. Then the young men we just got done talking. One we talked about, a stout, smooth sound, one that puts a lot of good things together. So some give and take, and definitely some positives and negatives for each. But there's one out here that just hits you hard when you watch that one cross the ring, steady from the ground up. There's just not a lot of holes in that one. She's not the biggest one, but she's the best one. Young man, single entry is going to be your champion, and then the young man will start from our other class of the reserve.
Our breed champion in the Poland China is Boston Taylor, East Central FFA, and our reserve champion is Alfred Garcia, Southwest FFA. If I can please have the spotted Poland China in the month of July. You can start making your way to the holding area. Spotted Poland China, July, make your way to the holding area.
so Emmeline, I'm going to admit I'm a little confused because those Poland China all look like they had spots.
With Poland Chinas, it's a breeding show, so it's based off the papers, but they're more like Berks, and they have to have white feet and maybe a few spots on them, but not like the spotted Poland Chinas, which are completely spotted, which I believe are coming out next.
Right, the spotted Poland China are next. And there are two classes of the spotted Poland China, July and August. In the July class, there are 4 entries, and there will be 3 entries in the August class.
And if I start having our July spotted Poland Chinas making your way to the holding area. I also want to make an announcement in regards to the showmanship. Breeding Showmanship will take place after the breeding champion drive. That will happen before the market show begins. So again, after the breed champion drive, we will have our breeding showmanship.
I thought we were close to starting with July. I thought I saw Miss July walking down the runway.
Here comes one.
and slowly making their way. So the first Poland China, spotted Poland China,
Yes.
is entering the ring now. Notice this one has a crest as well.
Yes.
Should we expect most of the ones coming in the ring to have the crest?
Yes. And
So that's a predominant trait for the...
Polands and spotted Poland Chinas. Yes.
Now, Emmeline, is there one particular breed that's a little bit better temperament-wise?
In this class. If we can start also
Temperament-wise,
having
I
our
think
August
more
spotted
spots are more of them
are
are more. Oh my goodness. More of them are better behaved, but if you get one that's not behaved, it's really not behaved. So, like all breeds, you get some good ones, you get some bad ones.
So when we hear people refer to spots, this is the breed they're talking about?
Yes.
I believe we're waiting for, nope, is that the final entry is in? Emmeline, from a cursory look, it seems like a very uniform group.
From what I can see, it does. They look really close in their characteristics and traits. They're also all the same size.
Is one of the traits of the spots more muscle? Because these look a little bit more stout than the previous breeds that have come in.
They're another one of their traits is them being really stout and opened up, and also having thick bone. So, yes, they all look like they have more muscle because they can carry more muscle.
And I want to say it's taking a little longer for the judges' evaluation here, but I think that goes back to the fact that the class seems to be more uniform.
Yes.
Because as it is more uniform, differences, it really gets to be nitpicky, so you have to spend some time searching for those.
Yes.
Well, an interesting class that comes in next, and once they hit the ring, the young lady that wins this class does so fairly handily in my mind. You watch that girl get up and go. She's the tall-footed, level one. It's opened up in terms of her rib. She's got plenty of volume, got plenty of mass, and she's one that handles her skeleton and her structure in the most correct way. One is still smooth, still attractive from the side. Second and third is where it gets close for me. I think you can flop these two gilts and and justify why I land on the young man's, because that's the big bone one that's tall fronted, tall shoulder level. When they get that gilt's head up, she is beautiful from the side. She gets out of reaches, looks a little bit better out of her front end and her rear end than the young ladies that lands in third. The young ladies that lands in third is much the same. A long one just needs more guts and more middle in that one. That girl wants to roll off both ends of her skeleton. Just want to pick her up on her front end and level her out of her hip.
So our July class is making its way out of the ring. Coming in will be the August class.
Very, very good class. Put your hands together for those exhibitors.
In the holding area, at this time we should have our August spotted Poland Chinas. There's 3 in this class. In the July class, in 4th place is Nico Garcia, Southside FFA. 3rd place is Jody Combs, Southwest FFA. 2nd place, Cody Alonso, East Central FFA. And in 1st place, Sophie Kruger, Southwest FFA. Congratulations. Again, after the breeding show, the champion drive will be holding the breeding showmanship. The numbers at this time, there may be more added, but at this time, our junior showmanship numbers are 114, 129, 113, 147. Senior showmanship, 365, 346, 352, 351, 353, 340, and 354.
We would like to thank the individuals at PMI, Pipe, Steel, Supplies, and Fencing for their generosity to the 2020 Bexar County Junior Livestock Show. They're making the difference in the lives of youth every day. They have numerous locations to assist you. They have one in San Antonio, High, Hondo, Robstown, Kerrville, Jourdanton, and Laredo. San Antonio location is located at 6385 Highway 87 East, San Antonio, Texas. You can reach them by calling 210-223-7473 or find them on the web at www.pipemovers.com. That's PMI, and thank you for your generosity to the 2020 Bexar County Junior Livestock Show. We'd also like to thank Gimbler Automotive, Cliff Gimbler, for his generosity for this year's show. It's the auto truck repair. He's located at 9254 Highway 87 East, Suite number 1. You can call them by calling 210-649-4230. Let them know thank you for supporting the 2020 Bexar County Junior Livestock Show. 2 of the 3 entries have entered the ring. We're waiting for the 3rd.
good class of spots that rolls out next, and the young man that wins this class does so just from a comfort standpoint. That's the soundest one out here. It's the tallest running, it's the levelest, it's the most attractive. It just blends everything together. Very nice skill to win that class. Young man that lands in second mirrors her in terms of her body and her volume, in terms of her boldness and her volume. Just as it comes part of a need of a package, not quite as out there in terms of her pieces, but just a good, solid, complete kind of female that lands there in second. That lands in third. Really like how long and extended that one is. That's going to be a big hog. It's just going to take her a while to fill out. She just needs a bit more time. Her ankles and her joints and her lines are right. She just needs more time to develop and drop that belly and open up just a little bit. But a female that has potential that's made right exceptionally. Very, very good class. Put your hands together for those exhibitors.
If I can start having the York July class make your way to the holding area. July York, if you can start making your way to the holding area. And our August spotted Poland China in third place is Derek Sanchez, Southwest FFA. Second place, Alfred Garcia, Southwest FFA. And in first place, Lawson Taylor, East Central FFA. Congratulations.
So we're now ready to have the spot breed drive. Emmeline, I think one of the things that we're noticing out in the ring, as the animal steps, we can see a little difference in the top line. And I think that we need to understand that's why they walk the animals around a little bit, so that the judge gets an overall view and not a real quick view based on that top line.
Yes. The more views you give the judge, the better he can judge your animal.
Let's talk about why do they try to keep the animal's head up?
With the head up, it shows off the front of the pig, but it also shows off the best view, so the judge can properly judge it based off its characteristics. Because if its head's down, its back does not look level, and it looks all cramped up most of the time. So if you put its head up, it forces the pig to extend and walk like it would normally walk if it's just walking around.
And it kind of elongates the top line.
Yes, and the look.
As we got here in our spot drive, two high quality gilts that roll out, and they're more similar than they are different. Young ladies out of the older class, one's just a big burly stout gilt, one that's broody, one that's bold in the ribs. She's got plenty of stoutness, huge footed, big at the surface. It'll change something about that when it's off of her rear too. Want to lever out of her hip just a shot. I want to see her just set there with just a bit more confidence in the way that she goes.
And certainly waiting in the wings is your favorite, the Yorks.
She's searching to wants to put that hind leg down. She just doesn't ever just put it down and just go. We can change that about her. That one gets even that much better. Young man that comes out of that second class, a neat looking one up front, one that's bold in the rib and broody made, kind of like our big one there as well, and one that just is comfortable. Angles are right, everything fits together good, comfort, soundness, body, plenty of dimension, plenty of volume. That's the one I like the best. Young man's going to be your champion spot. Just a good female. There's not just a whole lot wrong with that one. That one's sound, that one's got body, that one's got volume, and she's just going to be a good female that's going to go home and produce and make good pigs. I think it gets awfully close. I think there's one that just comes with a few more bells and whistles that push our champion exceptionally hard. One that's broody, one that's stout. Young lady's out of our older class is going to be a reserve.
And that concludes the
In the
Poland
spotted
spots.
China, the breed champion is Lawson Taylor, East Central FFA, and the reserve breed champion is Sophie Kruger, Southwest FFA. Congratulations. At this time in the holding area, we should have our Yorkshire July breed. There's going to be 7 in this class. In the holding area, July Yorkshire.
So in the ring now is the July Yorkshires. There are 7 July Yorkshires, and then of course there will be 3 in the August class. So Emily, talk to us a little bit about Yorkshires. What are we looking for?
Well, Yorks are known to be big in general. They're always really long, super tall, very stubborn. They can be extremely stubborn. I don't know, we may get to see one or two take off into the ring. Normally what we're looking for is the more bone on a York, the better, because one of the traits of a York is that they're thinner bone. So the more bone, the better.
So you're saying they're a little bit more energetic.
Yes, extremely.
Certainly some large-bodied, nice for July animals out here.
Was it me? Well, then I'm not me. That don't even sound right. No, what you do is you take a cold spoon.
So the final entry is about to hit the sand.
Never do it again. My dad, my dad's all my dad's like, son, just take a cold spoon that shit. I'm like, well. Your mom? After Saturday. Take a cold spoon.
I'd start having our August Yorkshires making your way to the holding area. August Yorkshire, you can start making your way to the holding area.
on an exceptional class of Yorkshires, quality top to bottom, no doubt. And I let these two driving out here. They were the first two that I pulled, and I think they're both exceptional females. I think it's very, very close out here. You're just splitting hairs. I think there's one that sets down with a bit more substance at the ground that comes at you a notch wider in terms of skull, in terms of chest, in terms of forearm and blade. And then there's one that's just a little cleaner up to that front end. One that's maybe just a bit more shapely today, but it's awfully close. I think there's one that you just build them, talk about building them from the ground, build them stout, build them square, build them genuine, making them broody and having everything blend and go together the way it should. Young lady in the red's going to win this class. Very, very good deal. Young ladies in second, take nothing away from that one because I think that one pushes her exceptionally hard. That gilt is a little cleaner ahead of her blades. That gilt is a little cleaner ahead of her blades. I love her shape. I love her tone. I love a lot of things about that one. She just doesn't sit down quite with as much stoutness right at the surface, and maybe doesn't go away just quite as good as our class winner. That's splitting hairs on two very, very good females there at the top of that class. Take nothing away from the young ladies in third. That's a good one that hangs right in there with them. This is just a good, complete kind of gilt, just basic. She's got width, she's got ribs, she's got muscle. She can handle it all well. She looks like a lady, just not as much bells and whistles as those other two. A little shorter out of her hip, a little steeper out of her hip as well. Young ladies that comes next is built. All four of these top ones, you can cookie cutter them. They all kind of look like the same hog from the side, and then you get to going into structure and things like that. These young ladies that lands in fourth, kind of see that one go better off of a rear tube, set down with more security and more comfort, but in terms of rib, width, and muscle, very similar to those top three as well. Young ladies that comes next, congratulations. Big rib, big up high, stout, thick-ended one that's big-chested. I just want her to carry it to the ground. She wants to funnel at her feet. Needs to be a little bigger in terms of her foot size, and she gets a little coarser and plainer up there in terms of her front end. Young Mancy comes next, a big stout one, big bone, burly one, just a bit plainer in terms of that one's look, in terms of her crest, in terms of her joints. She's just a bit plainer and a bit coarser. And young ladies that rounds out our class, one that's got some shape up high, one that's got some mass from behind. She's just a bit smaller type of female that's straighter at the ground, a little narrower all the way throughout. Very good class. Put your hands together for those exhibitors.
And as you were talking, there is the one. He is certainly having some fun out there in the ring.
In the July, Yorkshire, 7th place, Mary West, Southside FFA. 6th place, Robert Robinson, East Central FFA. 5th place, Isabella Ayala, East Central FFA. 4th place, Bethany Bosick, Kirby 4H. 3rd place, Aiden Child O'Connor FFA. 2nd place, Leslie Taylor, Aloes 4H. And in 1st place, Ann Alonso, East Central FFA. Congratulations.
And as soon as our last July is out of the ring, we will start with the August class. There are 3 in the August class. And our first August entry is entered the ring. So all 3 entries are inside the arena. This is our final breeding class. At the conclusion of this class, we'll have the Yorkshire Breed Drive, and then we will have the Grand Champion Drive of the show.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Some nice long pigs out there, Emily.
Yes.
We'd also like to thank Building Designs for their support of the 2020 Bexar County Junior Livestock Show. Your reliable source for dependable shelter. Go by and see Valerie Carson, the office manager. You can reach them at 210-648-7200 at the office.
Well, the challenging trio that comes out next, and I think that it's challenging because there's things that I like about each and every one of these, and then there's a thing or two I like to change about each and every one of these. But I think when you start adding things up, when you start looking at the total picture, I think the young man's driving there across the center of the ring needs to win this class. That gilt's just right in terms of the basics, in terms of her genuine width, in terms of her rib and her volume, and one that can still get out and go, one that's still attractive, one that still looks like a female. If I'm going to change her, she is on the very outside edge of where her hop placement is. I want to pull her back in just a shot, but she's just good enough there to go ahead and win this class. The young lady's in second. One is the trimmest up through her front end. One is the most attractive from the side. That gilt's got good shape, got good width. She just needs to go a little better off of her rear too, and I want to blow her apart in terms of her body. Just a shot when you compare her to these others. And the young man that rounds out our top three, opened up, stout, powerful, just takes it a little too far. Gets a little easy in that spine, a little short, round in that hip, a little coarser all the way throughout. Very good class. Put your hands together for those exhibitors.
And we're now ready for the breed drive.
Third place is West Kruger, Southwest FFA. Second place, Molly Perkendall, Southwest FFA. And first place, Clark Griffin, Southwest Rough Riders 4-H. Congratulations. Well, a good pair of females out here for our champion Yorkshire Drive, and young ladies that comes out of that oldest class, like we talked about, came out of a very competitive class, and just a rock solid type of female. We start her at the ground. She's good in terms of her foot. She's square. She's bold. She's dimensional. She still gives you that good look from the side when that young lady gets her head up. She's smooth. She's attractive. It's a nice female that wins that class. Young man's that wins this younger class, one we talked about. Just a good type of female, one that's got rib, one that's got some extra added muscle and dimension to her, one that gets a little off on the rear tube just a tick, if we can pull her back inside of her skeleton on her rear tube, she gets that much better. Two high quality females, one that just, there's one out here that just hits me just a clip hard of this one, it's just real hard to knock a hole in. Young lady's out of the oldest class, going to be a champion.
Leslie dropped that second place in. What we talked about in class, pushed our champion exceptionally hard, and I think she still looks good out here when this young lady gets her out. A neat looking one ahead of her blades. It's big middle, big back. One that handles it all very, very well as well. She's smooth, she's sound. She's got a lot going for her as well. I think it's close between hers and the young men's. I think there's give and take between those two. I just can't bless those two up that were in class. Young ladies that was second that out, all these classes are going to be reserved.
The Yorkshire Breed Champion is Anna Alonso with East Central FFA, and our Reserve Breed Champion is Leslie Taylor, a Lotus 4-H. Congratulations.
So next up is the Grand Champion Drive.
And we're going to start preparing for the champion drive for our breeding. If you have a breed champion and a reserve breed champion, if you can start bringing your animals to the holding area, please. All breed champions and reserve breed champions, if you can please start bringing your animals to the holding area, please. While we're waiting for the animals to come in, we have our final list of numbers for showmanship for breeding. Junior showmanship, number 114, 129, 113, 147, 130, 121, 119, and 135. Senior showmanship, 365, 346, 352, 351, 353, 340, 354, 341, 367, 347, and 336. Showmanship will take place after the champion drive of the breeding class.
We'd also like to thank Howell Crane and Rigging Incorporated for their generous support of the 2020 Bear County Junior Livestock Show. Audie Howell, the Vice President, let them know that you're thankful for them coming in. You can reach them at 210-661-8285. They're the number one in safety, so if you're needing a crane or also service, reach out to them and they will be able to help you. This is a reminder, if you like the video, then be sure to hit subscribe. That way you'll know when we have other videos and live events coming up. We will be live next weekend for the premium show sale at Bluebonnet Palace. So find us on YouTube at Helotus Echo and make sure you hit the subscribe button.
mention, everybody, given the COVID restrictions, we do want everybody to practice the mask wearing and the social distancing. However, we are pretty much at capacity, and we will be closing the south gate over here to make it an exit only. So if you have people that are wanting to come out until we see some relief of that, we're going to have to make that an exit only and limit the number of people coming in. Sorry about that, but that's what we end in right now. So at 3:30, that will be an exit only, at least for some time.
Will be presenting the buckles after the champion drive. Texas Farm Bureau is the sponsors of the buckle.
We're just moments away from the championship drive beginning. They have loaded all of the reserve breed champions inside the pens waiting.
Again, on our COVID restrictions, if you are here on site, if you are on the property and you're not in the arena showing, if you could please, with social distance, if you can also please wear your masks. Protection for all. If you're on the site, COVID restrictions will require that you wear a mask. Okay, at this time we're going to go ahead and start the champion drive. We are going to bring out our reserve champion, breed reserve champions, one by one, just as an introduction before we start with our breed champions. So I'm going to say the breed and the reserve breed champion's name and their school. Berkshire, breed reserve champion, Jason Adams, East Central FFA. Chester White, reserve breed champion, and Annalise Schultz, East Central FFA. Go ahead and bring your animals back down to the arena. We're just doing an introduction at this time. Your Durocks reserve breed champion is Josie Johnson, East Central FFA. Hampshire reserve breed champion is Dalton Taylor with Helotes 4-H. Landrace reserve breed champion is Kylie Sparks. Poland China reserve breed champion is Alfred Garcia, Southwest FFA. Spotted Poland China reserve breed champion Sophie Kruger, Southwest FFA. And our Yorkshire reserve breed champion Leslie Taylor, Helotes 4-H. Once they leave the arena, we will introduce our Berkshire breed champions by breed for the champion drive.
A nice addition, they introduced the reserve breed champions and the exhibitor. Now we're going to start with the breed champions. They are going to introduce the exhibitor as well. It is from this group the judge will be selecting and deciding upon the grand champion of the show.
Yes.
And then if he follows pattern, the reserve of whichever breed wins first, our grand champion would come in for contention for reserve. Would also like to thank
Coming into the arena, our breed champion, Berkshire, is Harley Dixon, East Central FFA. Our Chester White breed champion is Ian Diaz, Helotes 4-H LSP. Our Durocks breed champion is Kylie Sparks, East Central FFA. Hampshire breed champion, Kylie Sparks, St. Hedrick 4-H. Landrace breed champion, Macy Bassbinder, East Central FFA. Poland China, Breed Champion, Lawson Taylor, East Central FFA. Spotted Poland China, Breed Champion, Lawson Taylor, East Central FFA.
So
Yorkshire Breed Champion,
our last breed champion is now entering.
FFA.
So all breed champions are in the ring now. Judge will be evaluating who he believes is the grand champion of the show. Very diverse group as far as height. I also think a diverse group as far as muscle.
Yes. And then some look more mature than others as well.
Absolutely. I think you really see
All different.
I still have to say, I think as far as amount of animal, looking out from what I can see here, the Yorkshire takes it as far as size and
Width?
yes. Very wide across the top.
Tall.
Absolutely. The only thing, Emmeline, and I don't know if you get a chance to look at it, but look at that back left hock.
It may be a little small, but
See, that's
I
what-
think it's the best view.
That's what it looked like to me, is that it was just a little.
With that York for being driven for so long, especially for more mature animals, their hocks will start to swell up, which can hurt the way they walk, but there's not much you can do about it.
I believe he's made his decision.
Well, let's give all these people a big round of applause out here for our Supreme Deal. Great, exciting deal for you. Congratulations, big round of applause. Well, it was an absolute pleasure getting to sort through the field show. I drove these a little while out here just because I think a whole lot of each and every one of them. This was a great field show. Not just massive in terms of numbers, but quality. At the top end of that deal was deep and it was good, and that makes it fun to sort through. when they're like that. But really enjoyed getting the sort through. Thanks for all the ring help for sticking around and helping. We got a bear show to sort yet, but this was a lot of fun. Really good warm up for that. Really enjoyed it. I think when you get out here, I think there's 3 to 4 5 of them come to mind that rise to the top, in my opinion. That's no disrespect to the others, but I think there's some awfully good ones out here. The first one that comes to mind is that bark. I think that thing's wicked. I think that one's big bone. I think that one's big middle. Sideways, but it still has some look, really good constructed and sound. Our Durocks one that also comes in contention, a tall shoulder one, big ribbed and stout, handles it all right, and still smooth and blends from the side. Young man's Chester, I know that thing's giving me heck over there, but that's a dang nice hog over there. If that thing will get off the fence, he's wide, he's square, that gill's wide, she's square, she's got ribs, she's got look, she's sound. It's a shame she's giving him so much trouble in fighting him, but that's a dang nice hog over there. Young man's Spot is another good one that puts soundness and balance and power and design together. And then our York's the other one that comes to mind, a big one that's stout and sound, and one very tough breed. So I think we start putting all those things together, and you put them all together, and I consider what I think is what's ideal in terms of making them look like females and making them sound and sound. But then remember that these things, they got to go out and produce bears, and they have a destiny, and it's not to make commercial hogs, it's to make show bears, and I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. I think some people decide they got to be bear makers and they got to be gill makers. I think they can make them both. It's hard, but it is something that you can blend together, and I think those that I mentioned do a very good job of that, and have some really unique parts and pieces that puts them in condition. And no disrespect to the others, like I said, I think those are great hogs, but those are the ones that come to mind. I'm going to take another look at them, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to select the champion. Those kids, one more big round of applause, please. Great set of kills.
And the Durock takes the championship.
So that's a dropping that reserve Durock. One that we talked about in class. Up-fronted, level, neat to look at. That one sound, that one feels good. When you get her out here, maybe just doesn't have quite the mass and quite the volume that some of these other have, but a very good hog in her own right. And definitely when it gets into contention, I think when you get to looking out here, I think there's one that pushed our champion exceptionally hard, one that's made right from the ground, one that's pretty, one that's sound, one that blends those things like we talked about being the numbers and how to do things like that. Her attitude's terrible, but she's the next best one in my mind, and Chester's going to be the reserve.
Highland Park, Essential FFA with the Durocks. And our reserve champion is Ian with 11 4-8 Charles T with Berkshire Breed. Congratulations to all the winners and the Durocks. After the grand clearing, we will be starting the showmanship in just a moment. Again, I'm going to read the numbers and the final list of numbers for the breeding showmanship, junior showmanship. Number 114, 129, 113, 147, 130, 121, 119, and 135. Our senior showmanship numbers are 365, 346, 352, 351, 353, 340, 354, 341, 367, 347, and 336. After we complete the showmanship for the breed, we're going to take a 15-minute break, and then we'll roll right into our market trip. So again, after the breeding showmanship has been completed, we'll take a 15-minute break, and then we'll start the market show. The first class of the market show is going to be our first. So again, 15-minute break after the showmanship has been completed. Again, we can start having our junior showmanship. You can start making your way down to the holding area. Junior showmanship. That's number 113, 129, 113, 147, 130, 121, 119, and 135. Junior showmanship. Start making your way down to the holding area, please. 114, 129, 113, 147, 130, 121, 119, and 135.
Yep. We're going to be starting the junior showmanship here in just a moment, but as the junior showmanship happens, we're going to be visiting with the FFA teacher at Burbank High School.
My name is Mark Bensall.
And Mr. Bensall is going to visit with us a little bit about a couple of things. Number one, just why 4-H and FFA is so important to high schools in general. But then we're going to talk about why it's important to Burbank High School, because you have a little unique program at Burbank High School that we're going to talk about.
Yes, we do.
But, Mr. Bensall, why is FFA so important to be included into the curriculum of a school?
Well, FFA is probably one of the strongest programs there is out there for students to participate in. A lot of great Americans, previous years politicians, a bunch of them gone through the FFA. Through the FFA, students learn leadership skills, they learn lifelong skills, they learn ethical skills, they learn money management, responsibility. There are several different types of contests out there that the students participate in, that not just showing animals, but...
Well, I was just going to touch on that. Right now, I think everybody thinks that FFA, it's animals. It's an ag project, and that's mainly because of what is happening right now, the stock show.
Yes.
But there are so many other projects. You have welding, you have metal fabrication, you have construction projects, you have so many other projects, but also let's talk about some of those contests too. There is the Parliamentary procedure contest, in which FFA students actually conduct a meeting from start to end, and they learn how to conduct it with order, the same type of Robert's Rules of Order that we see in council meetings, that we see in organizational meetings. Those skills, are they not central to FFA?
Yes. All FFA meetings are actually ran through parliamentary procedure. The FFA is a student-run organization. The teachers are just there as advisors. We are not there to tell the students what to do. We are just there to advise them. Students come to us with an idea, and we tell them, you have to run this through your FFA club, because we just can't go through and tell the students, okay, yeah, we're going to do that. If it involves the FFA, it's got to be run through the meeting, and it's got to be run through motions, debated on, voted on. It's just not, okay, teachers, we want to do this. No, this is a student-run organization that the students have got to go through, and they vote on this stuff, and they decide on it. Just like our politicians are doing right now up in Washington, D.C.
Well, and I mean, not just and taking it out of the realm of politics. If we're talking about your local garden club,
yes,
or if you're talking about some of the other clubs and organizations that are out there, the central skills to lead a meeting start with learning from FFA.
Yes, yes.
And not only that, but we also have public speaking contests in which FFA students get to develop their skills for communication and speaking in front of the public. What does that mean?
Well, when it comes to pretty much we have two different sets of contests that FFA goes through and does. The first one are your leadership development events, and we usually do those in the fall. And those are your contests that all deal with speaking. They go through and through the leadership development events, we have the parliamentary procedure contest that we've already talked about. We've got the creed speaking contest where the students go through and actually recite the FFA creed and answer in-depth questions about the creed at the very end. There's also a job interview contest where the students actually go through and they produce a real resume. They go through and do a real cover letter. It's not a made up kind of thing. This is actually experience they've dealt with through FFA or real life. And they go to this contest and they get judged on their resume, their cover letter. When they get to the contest, they do a live telephone interview. After the telephone interview, they go through and they do a live interview face-to-face with judges. And at the conclusion of the interview, they go through and they do a follow-up letter. So it's real life situation for these students, because unless you're really lucky, sometime in life, everyone's gonna have to get a job. And this is something that will actually help them in life.
But let's also talk about, because this whole week I've talked about agribusiness and I've talked about young entrepreneurs. I don't think people understand that when you get ready to start a project, whether it's ag mechanics or if it is raising a livestock entry, there is ultimate beginning investment. You have to have that type of capital there.
Yes.
But then you also have to track your expenses, because these animals don't come with just sprinkle a little water and out they pop.
I wish it was that easy.
So they have to track their expenses, but they also have to learn to care for these animals, because if they become sick or if there are just general care, they need to get with the veterinarian to take care of that, or in some ways they are their own veterinarian.
Yes.
So walk us through, what does that mean for that student?
Well, when students first come to us and they say we want to raise an animal, we want to raise a pig, we want to raise a sheep or chickens, whatever it is, we kind of have a ballpark figure at our school of what it's going to cost to raise that animal. The biggest problem we have is with first year students, because they don't have that opportunity to go through and actually save up money before the school year starts. So a lot of times they have to go through and talk to parents or aunts or uncles and ask, for support, maybe, any way they can go through and get money to start this program, start this project up. It is very, very expensive doing this.
Let's talk about some of those expenses. Just to purchase my project animal, we'll use pigs because that's what we're showing today.
Okay.
If I want a base model, let's say we'll equate it to shopping for a car. If I want the base model, means 4 wheels, door, steering wheel, and get me from point A to point B, what would be my base price?
You are probably looking at around $500.
Okay.
It depends on the breeds, obviously, and where you're going to go to, but base price is probably $500 for a pig.
And that's going to be the base model.
Yes.
I mean, I can expect to basically get on the sand.
Yes.
But if I want to be competitive, if I want to try to enter that championship circle, now we're talking about I'm going to need the leather trim, I'm going to need the AC, I'm going to need the power windows, the power locks. I'm going to need more of a genetic contribution to my animal. Now what am I talking about?
As you start talking more and more about getting into the higher end pigs, I mean, I've seen pigs, most students will probably spend up to around $1,000 to $1,500. I've been to auctions where I've seen pigs go as high as $10,000. Now, and make sure I get this out there, just because you spend $1,500 on a pig
does not mean it's going to be the grand champion.
Yes. And and same thing, you might spend $500 on a pig, and you might walk out there grand champion.
But we need to talk about, because that's just my initial investment. It's almost like going to Vegas with $1,500 in my pocket. We're about to determine whether I'm going to go home a winner or go home really upset. Obviously, I'm going to have to start feeding my animal.
Yes.
How much feed will a pig eat from the time? And I'm going to get him, about August, the end of August?
Yes.
And I'm going to keep him until the end of January or longer. So let's say 6 months.
Okay. And again, when you first get your pig, it's going to be very young, and we're going to put it on a different feed. We're going to put it on a higher protein feed. So that feed is going to cost a bit more money because protein costs money. As the pig as it starts maturing, there's a lot of different feeds out there with different amounts of fat, different amount of protein, and every kind of feed out there costs a different price. But if you're going to go through, we pretty much tell our students at Burbank, that when you get your pig, and we'll say just going through Bear County, which is beginning of January, we'll just say that. We tell them plan on buying between 10 and 12 to 14 sacks of feed. So we tell them you're looking at about $300 to $350 on feed alone.
Okay, so my base model, 500. I'm looking at $350 for feed. So I've now got an $850 investment, but I got to have feed pans. I've got to have brushes. I've got to have my walking stick. We're going to call it a walking stick. Right. So I got to have my walking stick. I've got to have some other supplies. So how much are my other supplies going to cost me?
And then you talk about supplements.
Right. Well,
okay. We're waiting on that. Okay. Feed troughs. All your feed troughs, your walking stick. You're probably looking at about maybe around $100 for that.
Okay, so we're about at $950 right now for my base model.
Yes.
But then you hit it. I gotta have my supplements. I gotta have my wax. I gotta have my shiny stuff. How much are my supplements going to cost me?
Your shampoo. And all this other stuff. And again, it depends on how in depth you want to get. Example of like a hydrator, electrolytes. Just a tub of that's going to cost you about $50 or $60. Now, if you got one pig, it's going to last you the whole time. But some of these students like to have 2 or 3 pigs, and it might only last one stock show. So your supplements, again, it depends on what you're trying to target on the animal. Does it need to be filled out more, thin out a little more, do a little fat here? It depends on what supplements you need. But you can look at, probably $200, $250 in supplements.
So now my base model is up to $1,200. Okay. Now back in the Stone Ages when I showed, we didn't shear pigs. You had the griddle brick.
Yep.
You brushed it down. That's the best way you do it. Now it's different. If I'm going to have my own clippers and everything else, we're looking at least another $300.
Clippers will cost you $300.
So now my base model is up to $1,500. And I haven't had to worry about any vet bills. I haven't had to worry about any other care that might happen.
Entry fees.
So could we say safely probably about $2,000 for my base model?
Yes. I'd say you're $2,000 if you're just a regular, that would be about $2,000.
So now I, as an agribusinessman, I know I'm going to have at least a $2,000 investment. Now there are some things, and that's one of the great things about FFA, because we know that I can sit down and work the numbers, work the pencil a little bit, and I can start chipping away at it a little. Maybe I go in with partnership with another student. Maybe I buy in bulk somewhere. Those are the skills that FFA student learns up front, isn't it?
Yes.
A lot of skills that business owners take years learning just themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So when they graduate, they're already coming out of the classroom with that skill entailed.
Yes, just basic money management.
But also let's talk about, because we said I'm at Vegas, I got $2,000 in my pocket. We hope it never happens, but we know it does sometimes. December, I walk out into the barn, and instead of my pig standing up, 4 legs are up in the air, and he's no longer with me.
Mm-hmm.
What happens?
Well, you chalk it up as a loss. That's all there is to it. There's nothing, and all my years of being an ag teacher, I've never had that problem. Our biggest problem is the week before the show. It's not the animal passing away, it's they got hurt somehow.
Either got hurt somehow, or let's talk about the other issue that people don't understand either. There is a thing called scales.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're on a diet, scales cause you a lot of anxiety. But if you're a FFA member, that is probably the most anxious you're going to be all year long, waiting for that animal to go on the scale, because what happens if I'm a couple of pounds light?
If you're just 1 pound light, if you're 1 pound light, that animal gets sifted and you do not get to show it.
And that means that my $2,000 that I have invested
You should have went to
fall
Vegas.
flat.
You should have went to Vegas.
Absolutely. But if I'm a couple of pounds over, what happens?
Same thing. You get sifted.
And that means that I lost all of my investment. And it's still with the pigs, because back in the Stone Ages, market lambs used to have a target weight of 90 pounds to 120 in our show. So if you were under or over, you were sifted. Now, I got to be 90 pounds, but it doesn't matter. There isn't a top weight.
Exactly.
But pigs are still
Still a top weight.
top weight and a bottom weight.
And a bottom weight.
And you got to hit the middle
Yes.
of it.
Yes.
And so that causes a lot of sleepless nights. And there are some things that you learn as an FFA student to help make sure that animal fits within the target weight. And there's a reason for that too. If I was to continue in the business, and we know a lot of young people are not going out and becoming ranchers, they're not doing this as a full-time career, but the health markets, the consumer, dictate what I do with my animals. I can't just go out to my ranch and go, okay, I'm going to raise pretty cows and take them off and expect to be profitable. So these kids are learning from day one what it means to pay attention to the market, figure that out in their skills, are they not?
Yes. And this year is a prime example with the coronavirus, how much the market has shifted from one month to the other month. They see this. Personally, we thought when the school year first started that, we didn't know if we were going to have stock shows. And we're kind of going through thinking, okay, we're, as teachers, we're kind of worried, well, will animals be lower in price this year, show animals, or are they going to be skyrocketed as no one really bred? So it's one of those situations, and the kids see this. They understand this. We explain to them that it's all supply and demand. And that's something that, they don't think about, saying in that economics class, but when they see it in real life, and they're part of it, I hate to use the word hands-on, because it's not really hands-on, but, we tell them, it might be more this year. A good example is always feed. Feed fluctuates, the price of corn fluctuates, and they might go to the feed store this week and say, well, my feed was $17.95, and 2 weeks ago it was only $14.95.
Well, and a perfect example, because in the Midwest, about 2 months ago, they had that arroyo, or however you say it, come through that destroyed a lot of the corn crop.
Yes.
And that corn crop was key to the feed that's going to go out to produce this animal. So they're learning that events that may happen further from our community, way further from our community, affect our daily life in our community.
Yes.
Can you think of many other high school organizations that teach that same skill?
There's very few. If there is, I don't know what it might be. I really don't know anything else, because with commodities, the only really thing that deals with commodities, which is, fluctuating, minute by minute, it's agriculture. If you look at that commodities market, it's mostly agriculture products.
And so now I survived the weigh-in. I have survived bringing my animal to the show. I've hit the sand. I'm lucky enough to, now, Bexar County Junior Livestock does a premium sale, which, why that's important is that means that animal can compete at another show.
Yes.
This is not a terminal sale.
No.
Now, if it was a terminal sale, that animal would not leave the show grounds except to enter the food chain.
Yes.
So we need to understand that. So my paycheck, my return on my $2,000 investment is going to happen next Saturday at Blue Bonnet Palace.
Yes.
I'm going to have a lot of sleepless nights between now and next Saturday, am I not?
You probably will.
Because if my investment's $2,000, I need to at least earn, and we have to remember, even if I get $2,000, it's not going to be a straight $2,000, because there's commission,
Comes off.
there are other fees that come off, but I need to get at least, let's say, $2,500 in order for me to consider turning a little profit on my investment. What other high school activity teaches me that I may have a loss or I may have a profit?
None that I can think of off the top of my head.
And why that sale is also important is because how do I have money for next year's $2,000 investment?
Yes. So I mean, and again, this is one of those things that, and we go in and we tell these students right off the bat, because a lot of students come in with the concept that this is a money-making operation. They come in, well, we're gonna buy this pig, and we're gonna buy all the supplements and the feed and the troughs and shampoo and brushes and everything else goes along with it. And then, we're gonna sell our pig, and we're gonna be,
go out and buy a new car.
Yeah, be in the money. And we tell these students the very first thing. I mean, the very first meeting we have, we tell them this is not a money-making operation. This is strictly a chance for you to go through and learn these skills in life. Again, and like we just went through and talked to, the big one's financial skills. I mean, you go through and talk about money management. These students, they don't take in consideration, like you were talking about, from that auction. Okay, well, let's just say I made $1,500 at the auction. Yeah, they can look at it, okay, I made $1,500, but what was your initial investment? We've got to explain that to the student. Yeah, you made this money, and then they go through, and as they do in their record books, they'll see that in their record books, or FFA record books, they'll see, okay, actually, I spent $2,500, but I lost $1,000. I mean, spent $2,500 and made $1,500 in the auction, but actually, I lost $1,000.
But let's also talk about more important than the money, okay? Because the money's just not there.
Yes.
But I'm different. If I'm raising my animal and my show animal, I can't go out to the movies sometimes. And I can't, my friends want to meet up at the mall, or my friends want to, I can't do that either, because there is something that, or someone that is dependent on my being there. And I think that FFA teaches responsibility that you can't learn. That's not to say that other organizations in school, other activities can't teach responsibility and dedication. But here your decisions have consequences.
Yes.
Very real world consequences.
Yes. And one big thing, you just hit the nail on the head right there, is last week was what? Christmas. And we have to make sure we tell these students all the time. Animals don't know it's Christmas. If you're going to go out of town, you make sure you have somebody to feed your animal, take care of your animal, clean that pen, because the animal doesn't know it's Christmas. It's just another day for that animal.
And that's a real important time for the kids for Bexar County Junior Livestock Show, because a couple of days of either missed meals may mean I'm not going to make weight.
Not going to make weight.
Or a couple of days of receiving abundance of meals might mean that I'm not going to make weight.
Yes.
So it becomes very important to make sure that you're managing your animals, managing your time, managing your responsibility.
Yes. And we have students who, it's difficult, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that because you play football, or because you play basketball, or because you're on cheer, or dance, or band, you can't do this. No, it all falls under time management. We have students who are playing football and baseball. We've had students in the past who are cheerleaders. We've had students who are in other clubs. But they all work on time management. They understand, yes, we can do this, and we're going to stress ourselves out a little bit, but we can go through, and they understand the most important thing is that animal. Because if I'm at football practice, and I have to get on football practice, I'm like, well, I'm just too tired, I'm going to go home. No, you still have to go feed that animal. He's still over there, or she's still over there waiting to be fed. And we try and tell these students, keep it on a consistent basis. Don't go through and, today feed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, tomorrow I'm going to come feed at 9 o'clock in the evening. You know, make it consistent. So if you do play a sport or you're in another club, you know, that's fine. But the goal is to try and feed these animals 12 hours apart. We feed our pigs twice a day, and we tell the kids, try and make it 12 hours apart. Now, we have some kids who show up at that barn at 6 o'clock every morning. And they'll take care of their animal, they get it all taken care of, and then they'll go on to their other club or organization or what else, the sport they have to do. But it's you know, they learn how to go through and organize all this stuff in life.
And so we spent a lot of time talking about the benefits of FFA. Burbank does something very unique to Burbank High School to make sure that those students have those benefits. So let's talk about that program. Tell me about it.
Okay, well, Burbank FFA has been around since 1937. And since that time, they have always had a pig breeding program. And I don't want to misquote myself, but I think we are the only school in the state of Texas that actually has a full breeding program for pigs. We actually go through, and we have about 12 to 14 sows on campus right now. We actually go through and we'll go through and we'll purchase semen, and we'll actually go through an AI, the pigs, artificially inseminate the pigs. We have a farrowing house when the pigs are about ready to farrow out or have their babies. We put them in the farrowing house. It's climate controlled. They each have their own crate. Babies are born there on site. When it happens during the school year, the students get to see all this going on. I mean, this is for the animal science students in class, this is real life hands-on activities. They get to see it from start to finish. But these pigs, when we go through, we'll actually let our students on campus purchase pigs from the Burbank FFA. And we go through and we kind of go through and rotate our stock almost yearly basis. Most of our animals we have on campus are previous students' animals. When they go through and they show a gilt, if we decide that we like it and it's got good genetics, we'll go through and we'll keep that gilt. We'll ask that student, you know, we'll take that gilt off your hands, and next year we'll give you a free pig. Does not have to come from that gilt. You know, they might not want to show, you know, say that gilt was a Durock. Maybe next year they want to show a Chester. And we have one of every breed, if not several of one breed, they're on campus. And we go through and we give the students opportunities to, you know, buy pigs from Burbank High School. And we have high quality animals, and we sell them to the students of Burbank for a very, very inexpensive price. I don't want to use the word cheap.
No, and let's talk about a couple of benefits that I'm hearing from the program. If I was to enter into the agribusiness and animal science part of agribusiness, a lot of the large organizations out there, the large ranches, a lot of it is being done by artificial insemination, AI.
Yes.
So the students at Burbank are already learning those skills. So when I walk out the door, when I graduate, I already have skills that the industry is demanding and asking for.
Yes.
Number one. Number two, I get to participate hands-on from my project, from literally fitting in the palm of my hand into leading it out here on the sand.
Yes.
So I have ownership in that project from start to finish.
Yes.
I know exactly how it's bred. I know exactly how it's raised. And I have been the chief person to make those decisions.
Yes.
A lot of responsibility. A lot of responsibility that, as you even mentioned, most of the exhibitors in the state of Texas don't. They go to an auction, they purchase their animal. They go to a private breeder, they purchase their animal. The hard part of getting it from birth to that point was not done by the student.
This does conclude the breeding
So
show.
Burbank High School students
Thank you to all
get to
the
do that.
exhibitors
Yes.
for doing such a great job today.
But also, let's talk about legacy.
And then we'll begin the market show.
I raise my guilt. I put a lot of time and effort into her, and she's successful. Burbank High School decides she needs to stay in that program. As a FFA student, I'm now going to be touching the lives of many other students. So what a way to teach kids about giving back.
Yes.
All at Burbank High School. And let's talk about why that's important too, because I imagine in 1937, there was lots of open spaces around Burbank.
Yes, there was.
Now it's pretty landlocked.
Yes.
And let's also talk about, because demographics have changed, how many students at Burbank High School could go out and drop $2,000 for a pig?
It's hard. It's very, very hard. Very hard. And I'm not going to say Burbank. I'm saying any student anywhere.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so this gives them the opportunity to participate with a quality animal at their school. They're learning skills to do it, and they're leaving behind a legacy for other students.
Yes.
What am I missing?
The best part.
And that is?
All the activities and camaraderie in between.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we wish your students the best of luck here today. This is a reminder, if you're watching this video, come out to the Bluebonnet Palace next Saturday. Help out giving these ag kids their paycheck because they need it.
Yes, they do.
Good luck to your kids. We wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.